Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Chris Schwarz, and I'm a Senior Product Manager in Compliance and Operations here at Pixalate. And today I'm presenting alongside Amit Shetty, our VP of Product for Pixalate's Ad Fraud platform. We titled our presentation today, Powered by APIs, Ad Fraud and Data Enrichment, as we will perform a deep dive on Pixalate's Ad Trust and Safety API product suite and discuss some of the more common use cases across the industry. Today's agenda is as follows. We plan to give you a brief background history of Pixalate, including insights into who we are and how our API products have evolved over the decade plus of operations throughout the industry. We will provide some brief detail regarding our enterprise API features and product offerings. We will also detail both our Ad Fraud API and Data Enrichment API, collectively termed Pixalate Ad Trust and Safety API product suite, and shed some light onto the most common use cases throughout the industry. We will also provide a run-through of the sign-up process for a developer account on developer.pixalate.com and detail how to request a free API key for use today. To start, we want to give you a brief intro into Pixalate. Pixalate is a global fraud protection, privacy, and compliance analytics platform with team personnel positioned globally, including significant presence in London, LA, Palo Alto, New York, Singapore, and Canada. Pixalate is an MRC accredited service for sophisticated invalid traffic detection, termed SIVT, across all channels, including desktop, mobile web, mobile app, and connected TV or CTV environments. We maintain some very unique product suites, including our Media Rating Terminal or MRT platform, which offers global insights and ad supply chain intelligence across any domain and app, mobile or CTV. Pixalate also offers a freemium account for the MRT, which can be signed up for at ratings.pixalate.com. Pixalate has also been steadily expanding our privacy compliance offerings to include relevant regulatory insights such as COPPA, GDPR, CCPA, and the Age-Appropriate Design Code, amongst others. Pixalate also offers fraud protection through pre-bid lists, analytics monitoring, and APIs, as we will discuss in greater detail shortly. We have also put considerable amount of effort into serving as a thought leader via our blogs and industry reports, which are available at pixalate.com/blog.
Thanks, Chris.
So I'll pass it over to Amit to give some background history on Pixalate's API first philosophy.
Thank you, Chris. As you've already seen, we have a number of products where, like the MRT, the analytics dashboard, which cover a whole vast range of data points, which is probably one of the reasons why Pixalate has always been an API-first company. We always make all this data available via APIs to our enterprise clients so that they can do things beyond what's available in the UI. And this, I think, is a very important part of our DNA to be able to make sure that all these capabilities are made available in simple terms to cover as many different API, as many different use cases as we can possibly cover. And to that end, we have our enterprise APIs, which you can also take a look at some of the documentation for with those links that you can see on the screen. And this also has led to, if you go to the next slide, Chris. And the set of APIs that we cover and that enterprise API really covers pretty much all the capabilities that we have in our products, right? So the pre-bid and ad fraud API, ad fraud plus API there covers a lot of the ad fraud related capabilities, and some of it which I'll be covering on the next section. We also cover the analytics data, all the analytics as an analytics client, all the data that you have over there will be available through the APIs. And the Media Rating Terminal is probably one of the ones which is relevant to what we're talking about today, the Enrichment API, which we'll cover later on. And that basically provides access to all the data that we make available through the Media Ratings Terminal to our clients who want to use APIs. So on the next slide, please. So given all this historical knowledge about the use of our APIs for our enterprise client, we realized that there were a number of use cases where smaller clients might be interested in accessing the APIs, and at a much smaller scale than our general enterprise clients would be interested in. And that's the reason why that's the driving force behind the work that we've put in onto this Ad Trust and Safety API product suite. And the goal really is to make that all these capabilities more accessible and via lower price tiers for smaller developers and use cases, right? So basically, that's with that in mind, we launched two APIs, the Ad Fraud API and the Data Enrichment API, on our developer portal through the developer Ad Trust and Safety developer portal. These APIs are one of the key points of these APIs is that you can create a free developer account, and we have a pretty large number of transactions or calls available for free on both the APIs. So on the ad fraud front, we provide 10,000 API calls for free, and on the data enrichment front, we provide 1,000 calls per each category: mobile, CTV, desktop, free as well. So the goal here is to, number one, provide an easy way for people to try out the APIs and understand the usage and the value of the APIs, but also to be able to allow for really small developers to maybe their use cases does not go beyond those transaction count. We let them do that as well. A key part behind all this is also to provide, and this is also something that we have been very that we prioritize a lot for our enterprise clients as well, and that is the support for our clients. So we have a good amount of we have different mechanisms for support, but in addition to the chat, email, and so on, we also have a developer forum that we're building up via Slack. So the goal here is to build a good community of like-minded folks who use these APIs and allow people to discuss between them. On to the next slide, Chris.
So I'll speak to our Ad Trust and Safety API, give kind of an overview here. But really, Pixalate's decade plus of industry insights have culminated in what we have coined as our Ad Trust and Safety API product suite. The IVT opinions expressed are derived from Pixalate's MRC accredited analytics platform, which features discrete reporting across 36 plus invalid traffic or IVT types, and includes reporting across 12 unique MRC accredited SSAI or server-side ad insertion measurement metrics across all inventory channels, including mobile app and CTV environments. Pixalate's data enrichment insights are also provided across over 8 million mobile apps and over 6,000 connected TV apps at the time of this presentation.
So starting off with the ad fraud APIs, I want to give a quick overview of what we believe are the use cases that we'll be able to help with the ad fraud API. And again, we are completely aware that these may not be the only set of use cases that might be relevant to these APIs, and always we are happy to hear about more use cases. But the key part which we're thinking about over here is the scenario where maybe you as a publisher use advertising as your revenue source, so you monetize a lot of your inventory, and then after a period of time, you suddenly find that a large amount of what you're expecting to get has been pulled back, has been clawed back, because some entity along the chain, whether it's the SSP or an exchange or a DSP, found that there was a lot of your traffic was marked as IVT, invalid traffic, by some by different entities. Pixalate is obviously one of the ad tech vendors, but there are a number of others as well. But the key part is that once that happens, you as a developer really don't have any recourse as to doing anything about it, right? So you may not be able to improve your traffic. You may not be able to have a discussion about why that particular traffic was marked as IVT and so on. And that's basically where we believe that these APIs are going to be useful to you. You'll be able to use our APIs to determine whether what traffic may be potentially a source of IVT, a source of ad fraud also, And basically, you can take a decision about whether you want to use that traffic or not. This helps in both the reducing clawbacks, but also aligning with the industry partners that are involved in the ad delivery chain, and also help with your with your brand, right? So you don't want to be blocklisted. So this is also that could also help with reducing that scenario too. And then finally, it also will help you align with industry standards through MRC, tag, etc., that you may or may not have heard about, but are important in the advertising industry. So that's the real main goal of the Ad Fraud API, a simple API to help you check endpoints for IVT.
Yeah, another key element in the design of Pixalate's Ad Fraud API is that we allow for custom integration based on your risk tolerance at a given point in time with respect to invalid traffic. The probability of responses range from 0 to 1, with 1 indicating the worst offenders or most deterministic IVT traits, such as in the case of data center IPs, and with 0 indicating no detected IVT correlations present at that time. Pixalate prescribes default blocking parameters, starting with a recommended blocking of 0.75 for the most aggressive strategies and 0.5 for the most conservative strategies. However, this is ultimately up to you to be defined, and we're here to ultimately work with you to create a customized approach. Moving forward to the scenario on screen, we show a mobile device ID queried against the Ad Fraud API in the Postman application. As you can see, the response back in this particular case is a value of 0.66, which would indicate a high likelihood of this endpoint being considered invalid traffic. Based on the probability score returned and depending on the particular traffic quality strategy being employed, we are very likely to avoid traffic originating from this particular device ID. Now, employing Pixalate's recommended probability thresholds via the Ad Fraud API can serve as a great means of avoiding blocklisting, as Amit mentioned earlier. In turn, this can reduce clawbacks with partners and can also be particularly useful in aligning with industry's partners, especially amongst those relying on MRC-accredited SIVT vendors for their insights. Moving along to an example of a deterministic data center IP address. On screen, you'll see the IP 40.77.9.161 being queried against Pixalate's Ad Fraud API. This generates a response for a probability of 1. This is a great example of a detected IP address being associated with a data center, which is not appropriate for purposes of ad delivery. This response, as mentioned, indicates a deterministic correlation between the respective endpoint, in this case the address, and existing IVT traffic signals. Pixalate's recommended default probability strategy would be to avoid traffic originating from this particular IP address accordingly. One additional point to note, which Amit also mentioned a few slides back, is that Pixalate's Ad Fraud API can be used for purposes of aligning with various industry groups. Specifically, the Ad Fraud API can also be used to address the trustworthy accountability groups certified against fraud or CAF program across all traffic environments. In this particular use case scenario, this can be used to serve to address the requirements specific to data center IP traffic. So I'll pass along to Amit to provide some additional insight into the features of our Ad Fraud API.
Thanks, Chris. So as you saw on the last few slides, it's a very simple API to use. Once you get your API key, you use that, you pass that in, and make a call with 3 different potential attributes: your IP address of the endpoint, the device ID for that endpoint, the user agent for that endpoint. Whatever is available, you pass along, and we would make a determination based on those pieces of data. Now, we don't pass along the reasoning behind why we made that determination. In the general API, we do make that available from our enterprise API point of view, but that obviously requires a much higher level of a closer relationship with our clients to make sure that we are comfortable sharing that data as well. The key over here, of course, is that this is a IVT check that you can perform across desktop, mobile, web, and it has a very quick response time. It's just a 2 millisecond latency, which is obviously critical for the use cases that we are talking about over here, things like ad serving, right? So you don't want to really have a lot of latency in the mix when you're, which would definitely impact the user experience. And lastly, like Chris said, you can decide the usage the usage based on your risk tolerance. We provide the advisory thresholds, and you can decide what you want to use, how you want to use it per impression. So moving on to the second API that we want to cover today, that's the Data Enrichment API. We already talked a little bit about the media ratings terminal in the past, but where we basically have a huge database of apps, mobile apps, CTV apps, and websites, and it contains a wide range of data about each of those things. Right? Basically, there are, and we'll cover some of that as we go forward. But I did want to point out that if you want to have a quick visual view of what's available, please do create a free login at ratings.pixalate.com, and you can have a look at the data there too. The use cases that we're talking about over here vary again depending on your needs. So we have seen use cases such as targeting for campaigns, right? So as an advertiser or a buy-side platform, you may use the data available through these APIs to decide which apps or websites you want to run your ads on. You may also use it for onboarding partners. If you're, let's say you're a SSP, you may want to decide which partners you want to work with depending on certain criteria like their categorization, their brand safety levels, their IVT levels, and so on. So, and then of course we also have the research is actually another interesting set of use cases that we have seen where you may be interested in really understanding the apps for a variety of reasons, whether it's by financial institutions or by educational institutions. We've had a number of interesting conversations around that as well. So I think we should dive right into some of the details of using this API, Chris.
Absolutely. So in this scenario on screen, we show the results of an app overview query to attain a series of relevant app details, including content classification, app and bundle ID insights, app store details, amongst other insights. In this particular scenario, you'll see app ID 46041 was queried, which corresponds to the Sling TV app, specifically on the Roku platform. This query yields the channel ID, app title, app store description, and app store categories alongside various screenshot URLs for the images included in the app store.
And just to reiterate what we spoke about earlier, what you see in that screenshot is obviously a eye chart, so you won't really be able to divide too much there. But if you go to the developer documentation, you'll be able to see a wide range of data points that we make available.
Absolutely, and we will have a demo at the end of this showing how to get to that documentation and what's available at developer.pixalate.com.
Perfect.
So moving along to the use case scenario on screen, and similarly as Amit mentioned, Pixalate's Data Enrichment API really offers a rich traffic quality intelligence with emphasis on brand safety designations, IVT intelligence, viewability rates, and privacy compliance and regulatory risk considerations. The example on screen here shows the Pixalate advisories for the MyFitnessPal app across global regions within Google Play Store. Also important to note is that Pixalate reports across various transparency and quality criterion, such as whether the app is live within the respective app store and if app ads.txt file is in place and in use. These points have become of greater relevance, especially the delisted apps and the date of last update, given the tendency for various app stores to remove apps due to malicious circumstances.
Right, traffic quality is definitely a very complex issue and covers a wide range of data points that may be of use.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, another point to mention here that we have up on screen is that Pixalate's Add Trusted Safety API also offers the ability to query children's privacy and compliance related insights at an app level across both mobile app and connected TV or CTV inventory. This includes Pixalate's assessment of whether a particular mobile or CTV has been directed towards children and what the various children's privacy risk factors are that are present, including COPPA or the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Pixalate also provides a discrete breakdown in regard to the transmission of sensitive personal privacy information, such as residential IP and geolocation info.
thanks, Chris. I did want to re-emphasize the the privacy aspect of the previous slide, and this is part of Pixalate's efforts to help the industry around privacy compliance. In the previous slide, we provided a lot of interesting capabilities around children's privacy. What we're working on now is a new feature that's not yet available on the API, but will be soon. And that is basically an analysis of privacy policies across the globe. I think we covered about 17 different regulations already, across CCPA, CPRA, GDPR, and a whole range of those alphabet soup regulations. But those are all different enough that it gets very complex when you're trying to understand compliance, right? And especially when you're trying to do that at scale across thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of apps. And that's basically where what we have done is basically pull in all the privacy policies for mobile apps at this point, and I think also CTV apps, and then basically break it down looking for a whole range of data points which are relevant to all these different regulations that we talked about. It could be basic stuff like have they presented the contact information, or have they talked about their data sharing or data retention policies, and a whole wide range of different things that you can see listed over there. And all of this is going to be made available via the API as well in the coming few weeks. Next slide, Chris. So to wrap up about the data enrichment API, like we talked about, we already saw earlier, we cover a pretty wide range of data. It basically allows you to access a wealth of data about mobile apps, CTV apps, and websites. We cover application details, data about traffic, like ad formats and other things, advisories about brand safety, invalid traffic, ad fraud, and also privacy risk data like COPPA for children's privacy, GDPR, CCPA, and so on. So that's the full set of data. So it does cover a pretty wide range of data that we can look at on the developer documentation. So with that, I think we have come to the end of our slides for the two APIs. Chris, let's kick off a demo.
Sounds good. So starting off, we wanted to show where this is all available, right? So we've made mention several times throughout the presentation of a free API key that's available for signup. This is at developer.pixalate.com. Simply visit that site, submit for get an API key, and this will redirect you for signup with a company or personal email address and relevant details associated to your use case. So this is pretty straightforward. We're going to show you the account made available. So this is a demo account that I just signed up with recently. Wanted to make note that the API key is made available here. Simple, easy to copy your API key. You can also request a new API key, which I'll be doing at the conclusion of this presentation to make this prior one invalid.
It's a security feature to make sure that you're able to clean up out in case your API key gets leaked for any reason.
Yeah, and the usage statistics down here keep track of the queries used. across the various APIs available, be it the ad fraud API or the enrichment APIs, which are broken out on the basis of domains, mobile apps, and CTV. So clicking here, well, one point we should make note of right off the bat is that we have spent considerable amount of time trying to bring forward as much support documentation related to this as possible. This is available under the support and FAQs as well as the docs. This can redirect you to getting started with Pixalate's Ad Trust and Safety API product suite, which is available in our knowledge base as well. And it also breaks down the schemas within the respective APIs, be it on the basis of the Enrichment API or the Ad Fraud API. All of this is available with an account, even outside of an account. This is pretty publicly available information, be it our knowledge base or the developer.pixalate.com site. And within there, you can get started with your API key. This will direct you to our API Explorer. Now, this is where you would authorize authorize using your API key. Now, the selection here is going to be for which API you wish to access and run queries against. So in this case, we'll go ahead and throw the fraud API on screen that we talked about first. Go ahead and authorize using the API key shown on screen earlier. Now, within here, you can see that you can try it out. Now, any of this can be set up to be ran from, whether it's from the terminal or a third-party application such as Postman. This can be set up and utilized as you deem most appropriate, or it can be integrated directly in product suites, be it with the free iteration that we make available here or in the enterprise solutions that we also offer. So you can set this up. As you can see, you have the option to set it whether you wish to have the response return pretty JSON. The default's being false. We'll get it true this time. The IP example on screen is on screen, and the device ID.
You can see the three different parameters: the IP, device ID, and the user agent, all easily accessible there.
Yep. Now in this case, you'll notice that we have Googlebot in the user agent string. If we go ahead and execute.
And the scenario here is when you see a Googlebot pinging you, you can take that user agent and pass it into this API, and we'll be able to verify whether it's a Googlebot or not and give you the response back.
Yep. As you can see in this case, the probability is 1. This is made available in the case for download as well. This becomes much more useful, obviously, for the data enrichment API that we're up on screen next. But we do have a breakdown of the responses that would be received in these cases. And as we mentioned, the ad fraud API documentation goes into considerable details in terms of what's available here, what insights can be queried against, and the various use case scenarios and responses therein. Hopping over, let's hop over to the enrichment API. We'll throw up mobile apps in this scenario. Go ahead and authorize using our API key earlier. And in this scenario, you'll see the schemas available are incredibly wide-ranging. We only covered, I believe, 2 or 3 scenarios in our presentation. But any of these can be tried out, whether in the context of using it directly on this site or in your third-party applications or directly in the terminal. So in this scenario, let's go ahead and throw up a risk overview. You'll see the breakdown of some of the items that are broken out in this scenario. You see areas such as IVT risk, viewability, brand safety risk, content brand safety risk, and overall permission risk. So in this scenario, let's go ahead and try it out. So let's go ahead and try an app ID here. We'll go for let's do the risk overview. You can filter here by region, device, and ultimately you're querying on the basis of the app ID. So we'll go ahead and just click global for this scenario, make it nice and pretty.
The region part is actually very important. A given app may actually be having different traffic qualities in different regions, so it's important to be able to pick exactly what you're interested in within that app's detail.
Absolutely, yeah. We see these the risk factors and considerations, especially on the basis of IVT and brand safety, to be very well varied, or to be quite varied depending on the region. So that's an important factor to take into consideration across your various use cases. So you'll see in this scenario, we queried against this app ID. It has it pulled up on screen, and we have gotten all the breakout of the various risk considerations. So we can start with this actually. We'll just give an app overview so we know what we're looking at. So for this particular scenario, we're looking at Happy Color Art Coloring Book as the app. We're looking at it across the iOS App Store, across global regions. That's the app ID associated with it. You see the various breakdown, the basis of the App Store description, IAB categorizations and subcategorizations, and whether or not it has been delisted, and if it had been delisted, what the date of that delisting would be, and also an assessment of whether or not dangerous permissions exist. So now that we know what we're looking at, let's go ahead and hop back over to our risk overview and look at the various insights obtained here. So you see that we have an IVT, or invalid traffic total score, of 5.23. We've assessed this as medium risk. The viewability percentage that we've assessed is 45.3. The risk associated with that has been given a medium. We've also assigned a medium description brand safety risk and content brand safety risk, which are based on relevant insights at an app store level. We've broken this out also in this scenario by region as well, and given an expressed what the rationale behind certain of our risk designations are. Now, once again, all this is available for download and inclusion however you deem most appropriate for your use case, but it should be noted that that's made available. We also, for enterprise clients, one point to note is that we do offer bulk upload as well as a feature and a characteristic available. So this is something that Amit and myself could probably spend the entire day running through all the various use case scenarios, but just wanted to put this up on screen, show how you can get started, make clear that these are broken out as they are, and where to sign up. Once again, it's developer.pixalate.com. Simply click for sign up at the Get API key. This is always going to be free. We and broken out at an account level for various amounts of calls per month, as we spoke earlier on. Also of note is that we do provide considerable amount of insight on all of our product suites at pixalate.com/knowledge base, and specifically for details on our enterprise API offerings. Detail is also available at enterprise-api.pixalate.com. So with that, I think we'll turn it over and
Perfect.
kind of wrap things up for the webinar. Just to reiterate some of the points made earlier, developer.pixalate.com is really the starting place. You can sign up with a company or personal email address. There's the free API key made available for both the Ad Trust and Safety API product suite, which includes ad fraud and data enrichment. The enterprise subscription features also include cost based on query volume and the bulk upload features, child-directed insights, as we mentioned earlier, COPPA compliance risk factors, and the upcoming privacy policy and regulatory compliance insights be it on the basis of GDPR, CPRA, so on and so forth, that Amit also mentioned towards the latter part of our presentation. With that, Amit and myself want to thank everyone for joining and watching. We want to also call out that we do try to make considerable amount of insights available, whether it be through our blog at pixalate.com/blog or through our reports portal, pixalate.com/reports. And we have been spending a considerable amount of effort in surfacing product feature videos via our YouTube channel. So please reach out to us there or engage with us there. And also feel free to reach out to contact us if edited, developer.pixalate.com/contact us. Otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing you on the developer website or on our home site. Thanks all.
Thanks all.